Do you know what it's like to have a child with mental illness when so many people don't understand what mental illness is? Now is the time for me to tell you my truth. I was more scared than I had ever been in my life. The illness was complex and scary and impossible to fight on our own. So, all of those fears that every mother has, what's happening to my child? Why is this happening to my child? What will her life be like now? And why can't I fix it? Became bigger than life. My biggest fear was, how are people going to treat my baby when they find out? See, most people still believe that mental illness is caused by bad decisions or bad behavior or personal demons. And too many people still believe that mental illness is somehow the sufferer's fault. Even now, people don't understand that mental illness is a physical illness of the brain that's not working in the way that diabetes is a physical illness of the pancreas that's not working, or that cancer is a physical illness of a cell that's not working right. My 20-year-old daughter was formally diagnosed at 5, and all of her life, she's been distraught, frightened, terrified nearly all the time because she suffers from extreme anxiety disorders like OCD and panic disorder. Diseases where the fear switch, which we all have in our brains, can never be turned off. The kinds where her every thought feels like her worst nightmare is literally coming true. And over the last few years, as she's reached adulthood, schizophrenia has emerged. Can you imagine what that feels like for her? Think about it. When she was first diagnosed, I remember how our lives began to diverge from the rest of the world. It was like we were living behind a glass wall where we could see our old lives, but not live it. The life that we always thought we had dissolved into mist. It was so lonely because nobody was talking out loud about mental illness, especially in very young children. And even though we never hid what was happening to her, there were very few people we could turn to without risk of judgment. And we got lucky enough to find Rogers and the help that it gives to help us understand our daughter's illness so that we could help her. But you know what? That big, unforgiving world was still out there. A world that was full of misinformation and misunderstanding. A world that was filled with failing empathy and missing compassion. A world so full of stigma. I mean, sometimes I don't know what I had to fight harder. My daughter's illness that was threatening to take over her life, or the stigma. But we can make change. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, before this pandemic, 1 in 4 adults suffered from a diagnosable mental illness. And since, depression, anxiety, and other mental distress has risen exponentially. But rather than be discouraged, we need to understand that now is the time when more people than ever are struggling under the strain of mental illness, that we can pull out of the darkness of suffering into the light of hope. We must speak up. We must share our experiences. We must stand in defense of ourselves and our loved ones. We must help the people who don't understand mental illness connect to the human beings like my daughter, who are for now hidden behind the illnesses. We must help people who don't understand mental illness build empathy, the ability to connect to experiences that are not our own. And instead of offering disapproval or judgment or fear, we offer compassion and support. We must do that by telling them our human stories, and now is the time. We must help people who don't understand mental illness realize that a daughter suffering with OCD, severe anxiety, and schizophrenia is a daughter first, a daughter who deserves love, support, and acceptance. We must help people see that a mother struggling with soul-trapping depression is a woman first who needs extra support and encouragement. And we must help them see that a son struggling with eating disorder or substance use is a son first, who deserves to be enveloped in tenderness and given grace. But all of them, all of us, are deserving of compassion, of a listening ear, of a caring heart, of a hand to hold. Now, I will always stand in defense of my daughter and try to help the world see her as she is, a kind, loving, giving, brilliant, normal person with an illness beyond her control. And I will always tell our story and encourage others to do the same. That will not just make the world better for my daughter and other people suffering with mental illness, that will make our world better, period. Now is that time.